Here's your wrestling news for June 17th, 2022. And your headlines for today include latest on Vince McMahon's plans for SmackDown following hush money allegations. Belief among WWE employees is that McMahon will survive the investigation. McMahon hush money investigation referenced on AEW programming. It sounds incredibly problematic. WWE commentator responds to investigation claims. Latest on Vince McMahon's relationship with wife Linda. Top superstar expected to be out until 2023, WWE forced to change plans. A second investigation into WWE launched, what's happened this time? Who is next in line if McMahon is forced to step down? Ex-AEW star questions company's motives on latest episode of Dynamite. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville announce huge non-WWE project, and more. We are kicking off today with Vince McMahon, who is under investigation by WWE's board over allegations of a $3 million hush money agreement. McMahon is alleged to have arranged the payment for a paralegal who left WWE earlier this year, whom it is claimed McMahon had an affair with. This is one of the biggest stories involving Vince McMahon in years, but the boss isn't letting the investigation interfere with his work. PW Insider reports that McMahon will be present backstage at tonight's SmackDown taping and will have his usual roles producing the show behind the scenes. This is one of the biggest battles McMahon has ever faced, and in a truly blockbuster move, the wrestling promoter has stepped down as CEO of WWE. WWE's corporate website broke the news in a statement in which McMahon said he was cooperating with the investigation. McMahon also promised to respect the findings of the investigation, words that could come back to haunt Vince. Surprisingly, Vince McMahon will appear on tonight's WWE SmackDown. In a very brief media release, WWE stated, WWE today announced that Mr. McMahon will appear on SmackDown tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern live on Fox. It's unknown if the appearance will be live or taped. As of this writing, the US stock market hasn't opened, so it's unclear how Friday's developments could affect WWE's stock, which closed at $64.87 Thursday. In pre-open trading, it was down 1% to $64.20. In his place, Stephanie McMahon has been appointed interim CEO of the company, bringing her hiatus from WWE that she announced last month to an abrupt end. In her own quote given, the chairwoman of WWE said she loves the company and spoke of the importance of a safe, collaborative work environment. On Twitter, Stephanie gave her first public statement as CEO, adding that she is honored to be interim chair of the company that her father founded. To call this a big change is a massive understatement, as after decades on top, Vince McMahon may have spent his last day as chairman of WWE. Should this investigation clear Vince McMahon, he will presumably resume his duties as CEO. But no matter what the result of the board's investigation ends up being, this is an era that will never be forgotten. What are your thoughts? Share in the comments below. As for John Laurinaitis, who was also named in the investigation report, it said that his role with WWE is unchanged, despite belief among some that he will lose his job. The situation isn't going away as more and more major news outlets are picking up on the story, but things are apparently business as usual, at least at tonight's show. We've mentioned that many within WWE expect John Laurinaitis to lose his job due to this investigation, but that same pessimism isn't being shared about the boss himself. Speaking on the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that the belief within WWE is that the chairman will survive this scandal, even if it's found that he did pay off this paralegal as it's alleged. Meltzer explains, "Major CEOs, far more powerful than Vince McMahon, have been brought down for less than this, but the defense is, and I know people in the company who do believe Vince will survive this. I'm not so sure about John Laurinaitis, but do believe Vince will survive this. You know, with the idea that as long as there's no company funds used to pay this off, it's just, that would be okay." After defeating other promoters, Ted Turner, and even the federal government, McMahon is no stranger to huge battles, and while fans may hope for a day in wrestling without McMahon, don't expect this investigation to be the one to do it. Tonight we'll also see AEW Rampage take place after being recorded in advance immediately following this week's edition of Dynamite. We can confirm that there will be a reference to McMahon on the show, but if you don't want to hear it now, you should skip the next 30 seconds of the video. On Rampage, Max Caster delivered another one of his freestyle performances and will take aim at McMahon, saying, "Honestly, I had something more to say, but somebody signed me to an NDA." This is of course in reference to the non-disclosure agreement that McMahon is alleged to have had the paralegal sign upon her departure from WWE this year. AEW is no stranger to referencing WWE on their programming, and this is no exception, as one of the biggest stories in years has found its way to the All Elite promotion. While AEW have had things to say about the investigation into McMahon, WWE superstars are unsurprisingly keeping quiet about the situation surrounding their boss. With that said, one person who is willing to talk is SmackDown's Pat McAfee, who addressed the situation on the latest episode of his show. Discussing the investigation, McAfee made it clear he's no expert on the matter, but that from his perspective, things look dire for the WWE chairman. "I don't know shit After watching Succession, anytime a board is trying to do something, it's hard not to be like, whoa, what's real, what isn't? Who knows? Hopefully I'll find out at some point. Hopefully we all will. Who knows how that whole thing will go? It sounds incredibly problematic." Given that his role as a commentator is just one gig for McAfee, it's fair that he's willing to discuss something that others who solely work for WWE aren't willing to talk about. As for McMahon, the WWE Board of Directors doesn't have enough voting power to oust the chairman from power, but they can make things very difficult for the CEO of the company. Now, yesterday we reported on McMahon's relationship with his wife Linda, which reportedly hasn't been close in quite some time. Ex-WWE superstar Rene Dupree said that the pair haven't lived together in decades, though many fans chalked his statement up to a bitter ex-employee sticking it to his former boss. It looks like Dupree was right, however, as in a new report, Dave Meltzer pretty much confirmed the reports, saying that while the pair are technically married, they haven't lived together in a, quote, long time. Whether that long time is the decades Rene Dupree has suggested is hard to say, but it appears that things are far from pleasant in the McMahon household and haven't been for some time. Vince married Linda Edwards in 1966, and the couple have 2 children and 6 grandchildren, but the original power couple are reportedly not seeing eye to eye. The chairman of WWE is under a lot of scrutiny right now, but is determined to work as normal despite a severe lack of top-tier talent at the moment. Brock Lesnar hasn't been seen since WrestleMania 38, Roman Reigns is appearing less and less, and Cody Rhodes is set to miss the rest of this year with a torn pectoral muscle. These are all huge losses for WWE, and now another star isn't expected to be back anytime soon. Fightful Select has learned that Randy Orton's condition is much worse than first feared, and that he's not expected to be back before the end of the year. Orton's last match was nearly a month ago when he and Riddle lost to the Usos in the tag title unification match. About that, Riddle went on to say that Orton could barely walk before going out. This is just the latest blow for WWE, as the Viper had been rumored for Reigns' opponent at SummerSlam, but that match is off the table now. There's no word on who could replace the Legend Killer, as while Drew McIntyre is one of the few top stars who isn't injured, a match between him and Reigns has all but been confirmed for September's Clash at the Castle event. Obviously, the most important thing right now is that Orton heals up, but don't expect any RKOs for the rest of the year. More bad news for WWE next, as not only is their chairman under investigation over an alleged $3 million hush money payout, but the company as a whole is under a different investigation. In a press release sent to Business Wire, Scott & Scott Attorneys at Law LLP announced an investigation into WWE directors and officers for an alleged breach of fiduciary duties. In layman's terms, this would mean that the board failed to manage WWE in an acceptable manner and broke the trust of shareholders who have suffered damages as a result. WWE shareholders have been encouraged to reach out to Scott & Scott to provide information of the company's operations in order to build a case against them. It's worth stressing that this is a completely separate investigation than the investigation into McMahon, though it's likely he will also be scrutinized by the legal team at Scott & Scott. A second investigation is the last thing WWE needs at this time, as while many have considered Vince McMahon bulletproof for decades, it certainly feels like the walls are closing in on the professional wrestling pioneer. Between these two investigations and his aging health, McMahon may have no choice but to step down from his role on top of WWE, despite previously stating that he'd only leave the role upon his death. If McMahon does go, then there will be a power vacuum at the top of WWE, and we may have an idea who could be next in line to replace the chairman. As Dave Meltzer explained on Wrestling Observer Radio, Bruce Pritchard is being considered to be one of the heirs to the throne, given that he is already considered McMahon's second-in-command. Interestingly, Meltzer also made reference to Triple H, who at one point was considered the natural choice to take over the company, but that changed when McMahon took the reins of NXT last September. Perhaps the most interesting name not mentioned is WWE President Nick Khan, as Meltzer made no reference to the controversial WWE higher-up who has made major changes in the 2 years since his hiring. Of course, if McMahon had his way, no one would be replacing him as chair of WWE anytime soon, but this may be a situation even the boss can't control. Over to AEW now, as Sonny Kiss was featured on this week's episode of Dynamite, but it wasn't in a match. Instead, Kiss was involved in a commercial celebrating that June is LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and while it was good to see the talented wrestler, some people questioned the timing. On Twitter, ex-AEW star Joey Janela pointed out that Kiss, a good friend of his, was featured on Dynamite despite not wrestling on the show in nearly 2 years. Janela made it clear that he believes Kiss only got the chance to appear on Dynamite this week because they're part of the LGBTQ+ community and called on AEW to cut the While Kiss is a talented wrestler, much of their career has been spent on AEW Dark or Dark Elevation, and while it was great to see them on Dynamite, Joey Janela is suspicious of the company's motives. And we're ending today with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, who despite their 2020 feud, are the best of friends. Outside the ring, the pair run the Mandy's Donuts YouTube channel, where the two ate and reviewed Homer Simpson's favorite treat, and now their donut love has been taken to the next level. Speaking with Forbes, Sonya Deville announced that she and the NXT Women's Champion will be opening a Mandy's Donuts store in Los Angeles, California, saying they've become aficionados of donuts at this point in time. We've got no idea when the store will open or how the two will operate it given their busy schedules in WWE, but the former Absolution members have got some big plans outside the squared circle. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.